the Reddit group made a lawsuit claim. But I'm not sure if they fully pushed it, but I'm pretty sure it's already been made. And I think the Library of Congress has been doing something about it as well, or something along those lines.
I'm not surprised. As Oscar brought up, the rich will use these tactics to benefit themselves, but won't like it when other people start using it against them. But it's the way life is. Greed, and nothing for the lower classes. But, I was going to say, let's move on to something in more positive light, but I don't know how, depending on where this conversation goes, we'll see how positive today's topic is. But today's topic is, Dom, can you remind me?
Why it's looked down upon to not give your full effort into something that does not interest you.
Yes. So, when you hear this, what is like the first thing that comes to your guys' mind?
I think it's when you're trying to take general classes in a college. If you know what I mean, and you're trying to pursue a specific trade or something, but you're forced to take general ed classes, and when you start showing your strong suit for one specific trade, but you start failing on other ones. Let's say you're good at engineering, but you're really bad at writing essays, and then people think you're just not smart because you can't write an essay.
Yeah,
if that makes sense.
So, wait, before I go on, Oscar, do you have anything to say about what came to your mind first?
For me, it was just getting those general classes out of the way.
Okay, yeah.
Where you're not necessarily interested in it, but you're forced to do it,
Yeah. So, similar to you guys, my first thought, it was a more general sense. My first thought was school, because this could be a whole topic on its own about the school system, but in general, I think we can all say that that's kind of how the whole school system is right now, not just solely a thing for college,
Yeah.
How many times during high school did we say, or did we hear people say, why are we even taking this class if we're not going to need it for I don't know, the future or our major,
Yeah.
And so, yeah, you see a lot of kids won't put effort into a class that they have no interest in, and it's looked down upon, but in my eyes, I don't know, I guess that's the question I want to ask is, do you guys think that's a good thing to look down upon? Because to me, I think about it how Dominic was saying, a lot of times it's a student may not be giving their best effort, let's say they are in a subject that they don't like, but they're still not doing as well. It's like Dominic said, they could be good at another subject, but yet they're still having to be judged, and how would you say, basically they get this negative perception just because of how they're performing in one class.
Yeah, I think it's just widely regarded that people have to take general ed classes just so they can prove to themselves that they could be efficient in a broad range of different sort of studies. But I feel that could leave a bad connotation in which the student, let's say, does bad in one class, and then let's say he fails a test, but he succeeds in a different class. Everyone's not going to pay attention to the fact that he passed the class, but that he, failed a test, and then they're going to keep on pushing that student to pass that specific test that they're not interested in.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then that just completely how do you call it? It pushes them away from something that they could be more interested in.
Yeah. Hold on, Dominic.
But yeah.
All right, what were you? So you were saying, Dominic?
That how do you call it? general ed classes pretty much force a student to do something that they don't want to do. I mean, yes, it does prove to them if they are able to pass general ed classes. That means that they're able to, have a good knowledge of like different subjects. But if they don't like a specific subject and they rather prefer a different subject, it's usually never like, how do you call it? Like, usually classes are never like changed or something of that matter. To like pinpoint a student to like the direction that they're mostly interested in and are probably able to succeed in.
Yeah, and let me just say that right now, obviously, like, yes, a lot of the general classes that they give, like English, math, science, and stuff, and like history, is like, okay, yes, they are needed, at least like a general sense of information is needed for those things, But like,
yeah,
like Dominic is saying, when they're put into like, essentially, like, I kind of want to say like, not really like advanced, but like kind of like classes that are more aimed towards people interested in those subjects. That's when like, it's kind of like, that's why we're talking about like it shouldn't be like frowned, like looked down upon, or like, a person should get a bad reputation if they're not willing to give their full effort in a class that like they have no interest in, And
yeah,
a point like I want to build upon that Dominic mentioned is, because school puts such focus on these like general classes, Dominic is correct in the sense that you see people lose, I guess you could say, their passion for other subjects that they may have interest in, because the school system in general, from elementary all the way even into college, it doesn't really it doesn't build to your strengths,
yeah.
Like, how many times have you seen like a student who was like creative in the sense of like the art, like in like in terms of like arts and stuff, how many times have they been criticized because they weren't as good in other subjects, and how many times were they like put down for wanting to do that stuff,
Exactly. Yeah.
And then it's like you slowly discourage those kids to stop pursuing art, and then it's like, well, okay, great, you killed their passion for something, and now look at them, they don't know what they want to do, because what you want them to go, like, you're gonna force them to go into something that they're not passionate about no more,
Yeah. I think what's also important is to like add on like that old joke like, oh, I'm never gonna do this again in the future, which is sometimes true if you think about it. Like, 30 years from now, are you gonna be writing an essay on, I don't know, the life of Martin Luther King Jr., or are you gonna use the Pythagorean theorem to figure out you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, for everyone has their own specific study that they're interested in, but it should be emphasized that not everyone is not comfortable learning a specific topic they don't want to learn.
Yeah.
Especially if their future that they want to pursue, like their like future career, don't require said skill set that's not necessary.
Yeah. And I think we see that a lot now. I mean, okay. Yes, we get it. A lot of fields make good money. But just because a field makes good money does not mean everyone needs to go into them. How many times did we hear people say that they wanted to go into engineering solely because of the money without even knowing what they needed to go into engineering?
Exactly.
They didn't know what classes they were going to have to take. They didn't know what skills they were going to need. They just wanted to go into it solely for the money. Which, not saying it's wrong to go and do a job solely for the money, because I mean, that's typically what a lot of people do. But like, we're talking in the sense of people going into whole career paths that they don't even know about, or like may not even be passionate about,
Yeah.
And I think Oscar said it like, he like, me and him were talking about something similar just like a couple years ago. He was saying like, honestly, it should be that like in elementary and middle school, they essentially teach you like the basics and like basically teach you like the basics and what you're gonna need, right? And then once you go into high school, it should be like a preview into college, where in the sense that like from there you start going and looking like exploring different fields and different passions, and then that way that once you get to college, you mainly focus on that and start pushing towards whatever you really want to go into.
Yeah.
And I think that would honestly be a big improvement, because it's like you give them the basics early on, and then you say, all right, you're done with this now. Whatever you want to do within these next 8 years, between high school and college, you're going to now build upon those skills, learn about all the information you're going to need in there,
Yeah.
Oscar, what do you have to say about all this?
I think you guys basically summed up my opinion on most of it. I don't like how, to begin with, our education system is pretty outdated. It's like modeled after a system that was meant to like prepare people for factory work, which is why everything is like so streamlined and there isn't much like variability or like distinction between tracks. Because I know some education systems have like the English track or like the math track or like the history track, where you kind of pick out what you want to revolve most of your focus on. I think it's their high school equivalent, during high school, and you kind of get to explore what you're interested in. And I think that's the most like cost effective, because I feel like we're wasting money on funding for schools that aren't teaching students to the best that they can, and wasting students' time and like kind of ruining their mental health. Because I can definitely see how it would take a toll on you if you're forced to take math, but you don't like math and you're not necessarily that good at math. I get it's important to teach people how to learn and persevere, but at some point it becomes kind of like cruel, and I feel like that's where we're at.
Yeah, especially you both know how much this was a frustration to me. It isn't even a thing about learning, it's just a thing about getting the good grade, And yes, you can argue that if you're getting good grades, you're learning, but like really, it isn't really like that, Like, there wasn't any emphasis on actually learning. It was all about doing well in a class, And when that's such an emphasis, like Oscar said, it's gonna take a mental toll, because sooner or later, that grade and having to get those good grades, like obviously you want people to succeed and learn and stuff, but like when you're putting so emphasis on the grade they have, it's like slowly but surely you're messing with their mental health, like Oscar said, because that emphasis is now making it to that person seem like that's the only thing that how would you say it, like they look at that as like that's the only thing that makes them, I guess you could say in a sense valuable, or like that's their only value to them is whatever grade they have, And it shouldn't be like that. When a student looks at it and says like that their only value is the grade they have in a grade book, that's how you know you're failing as in a school system, When a student seems to a student, and when their mind, when they're only defined by a grade, then that's how you know things are going wrong, because then that's messing with their mentality, that the only thing that defines them and defines their value is just whatever grade they have in a book. And so when they start failing, then you're causing them to now start looking at themselves with less value and thinking things like they're a failure or things like that, And it shouldn't be like that. We should be putting more emphasis on not only them actually learning things, but then like Oscar was saying, transitioning to like things that they want to learn. I mean, how many times did we hear in high school that, people would say like, oh, we get it, like some people aren't good at taking tests, they can be like, they can be really good at understanding the material and even like teaching it to others, but like the moment they